Everyone's showing up with us. No one's in Calgary either. What's hilarious is they don't even know what's me. They think it's Steve for Best Christian Workplace. Because that's what was announced last week. So it's actually the lack of attendance is not indicative of me. I'm quite happy about it.
Just on that side if he's going to be speaking this side. Probably has a family worship Bible. Oh, yeah. A family worship Bible? Interesting.
That looks like a very old looking family pew.
Yeah.
Right. Old church. Yeah.
Hi, how are ya?
Good, how are you? What's that?
Good. We got 4. 3 for housing, but still we got 4.
Housing's representing.
Yeah. Housing's here.
Is that your Bible, kids? I can't remember.
What is that?
It's the Family Worship Bible.
Oh, we
Doesn't
thought it was
this look
yours.
like when you find in like an old pew? I don't know what it is. We're like, oh, this is Dean.
That says me all over, eh?
Like, do you just sit together and share it?
And I have like
Dun, 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 without you.
family discussion.
Yeah, just say word. Just say word. And so like, I was like,
It really is something like
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes.
Like, well, look. Oh no, that's actually it's okay. You're all on that.
Actually, just actually.
Yeah, no, we're okay. Where is this thing pointed to? Hi, Alyssa. Breakfast of Champions, I see. Good for you. Same thing.
It looks like no one's here.
I'll fill it.
Alyssa's here. It's all good. I mean, there is literally no one in Calgary. Like, literally. And pretty much everything I'm about to say, you guys already know.
We'll look really attentive. We'll look really attentive.
Yeah, look like it's fascinating to do. Everything you're about to hear is already known.
Oh, they're great. Shelter. Yeah. I like your shirt.
See, like, the toque indoors. I can't pull that off. If I walked around like that, everybody would look at me and laugh. They look at you and go, hey, that was cool. I can't pull that
It's
off.
true, if you were wearing a toque, I'd be like, what's happening?
Yeah, I should put my toque on and just stroll around all day and see what you guys say. You'll all look at me like I'm totally weird. Allie,
But I mean,
though?
if we're too short, we can just do that.
He's cool.
You got the head bob.
It's really annoying. I want to be cool too.
I'm glad you got Allie issue here.
I'm Allie issues. I want to be cool too.
He's gonna drive and entertain us all.
Yeah. It's not working.
Throw on a catwalk.
What's that?
Throw on a catwalk.
No, so is this in retaliation for being around last week? They decided to shut down, or?
Yeah, maybe. Well, that's right. Oh no, you weren't here last week. That's why this whole, I don't understand this story.
We all have. Well, that's what it, oh yeah, it was like, yeah.
None of us were
Margaret,
here.
none of us were here.
Yeah.
One person.
There's Margaret.
Margaret, yay, HR.
We barricaded. Are we on mute?
I know.
If not, they heard that Dave was out.
Are we on mute?
I hope we are.
I'm so ugly sitting there, yeah.
Maybe we're recording it.
Where's Dad?
The girl.
You like those, right?
We're going between Tim Hortons and
Okay, and then everyone was just like, why is
The only thing I like about Tim Hortons is what it costs.
yeah.
Like, with a family of 5, they're like, yeah, I can go to Starbucks never.
No.
Because we don't have $50 for breakfast.
It's crazy.
It is.
Like coffee, you can sandwich, you can be done with 20
Yeah. Well, even, and their pastries or whatever, they're just,
These are pre-frozen.
at Starbucks?
No, oh, I thought you meant, like, it's just.
Well, yeah, well, Tim's too, but
Oh, yeah,
Tim's,
Starbucks is coffee, nothing more.
but I'm paying $1.50, so I don't care if Tim's. But I'm paying $4 for a scone that like tastes like a hockey puck.
Yeah, it's like, it's not good.
No, it's not good.
No.
The place that's got the baking is.
You should try her spinach dip that she brought.
Second class. Yeah, you crazy with spinach?
Oh. You have to heat it up.
I like
No,
it.
you don't have to. It's unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable spinach dip. Wow.
It is. And it's healthy too.
We'll heat it. We'll heat it up after faith night.
I made loaded baked
Yeah.
potato soup for supper tonight, like from the crock-pot house.
Oh, wow.
That's healthy for you too.
Oh, it would be.
Yeah.
That
Sounds
sounds
really
good.
good.
I hope so. I had a daughter requesting it, so. And it's crock pot weather.
It
totally is,
crock-pot
yeah.
weather.
You know, I just don't like peeling potatoes at 10:30 at night, but what do you do?
Make the kid happy.
Get happy. All right, what, like, am I on? Oh, is there a, oh yeah, there's a crowd there. When did they all come in? Are we ready to go? Can I get a wave?
Shelter, wave from shelter.
The shelter wave? Yeah, with shelter wave. Are you guys waving like at the what do they call it? 102. Hey, people there in 102. You guys, you're not paying attention to me at all, are you? Hey, Margaret, get up and yell at everybody that we're starting. No,
Yeah, definitely on mute.
I'm not on mute.
You're not on mute.
I'm not on mute.
Shelter.
Shelter can hear me. Shelter is my friends. Hi, Shelter. You're my friends.
Oh, they froze.
And they're frozen. Well, we're off to a terrific start today.
Shape it up to be a good one.
Yeah. It's not funny at all. So, Shelter, you're my friends. You can hear me. You're paying attention. I have no idea what to do with the other people in Calgary there. Yeah, text Margaret or somebody. I know Margaret's in the room. I don't know who else phone number I would have of people sitting there. Hi, Paula. I was going to say, why? It's so good to have you here. What does that say? What does that say?
What the
Oh.
I don't know what.
That was way too quick.
It's way too
Write it
far.
on a piece of paper.
heck? Trying.
Move
Move the camera to the right side. I'm guessing that's what they mean?
Is that what you mean? Is that better?
Presenter right. That must be it.
Am I muted?
That's it. Thank you.
There we go.
That's awesome. Go
Are we
ahead,
good
guys.
now? Everybody can hear me? Shelter, can I get a wave? Good. 102, can I get a wave? Yay! Everybody's excited. Okay. First of all, is Chaplain David around? Chaplain David, are you there? Yes. I think you have somebody that's coming to talk for a minute for Rewrite Your Story. Is that correct? Yeah, okay, good.
Yeah. Can they all look at that? Leo is prepared. That's an IT guy there, right? He probably like travels with this in his pocket just all the time. He's got like a flash drive and a microphone and memory cards. Anyway, so you all know that I've been really pushing hard this Rewrite Your Story thing. We want all departments in all areas, all locations to get involved. So today we're going to do a quick interview with Colin. Many of you will know him. You can come on up here, buddy. He's actually helping us.
Where's the camera?
Yeah, there you go. He's actually helping us on street level with the shipping receiving, so you see him all the time. He's always smiling. And he's always keep the hat on. Just kidding. So Colin's actually my backup. He has been waiting all month because he knew at some point there would be a last-minute cancellation and he would be called upon. So thank you so much.
Oh, no worries.
So to keep this brief, what has brought you to the mustard seed?
Well, some of you guys know me. Actually, most of you guys probably know me. So what brought me to the mustard seed was I struggle with some addiction stuff and kind of went through a few programming stuff. And I knew I just needed a little bit more. And I wanted to connect with like a Christian community. So that's really what brought me here. And I wanted to make some, there's so many good people here. And I just knew that would make me a better person.
Awesome.
Yeah. So you guys are my backup plan.
Wow. Wow. That's awesome. I don't even know what to say back to that. So the next question was going to be, so how do you feel like God has helped you with the process? I know you've already kind of touched on that, but elaborate on that a little bit.
Well, I can elaborate a little bit. Some of you guys know my story because it's on the internet now. I certainly don't mind. With the addiction stuff, I can go through the programming and I can do the AA stuff, but it wasn't until I made that connection with God or the Bible study that I stopped having to hold on and just kind of let go. And it's been so much easier. My life just seems to follow a path. I mean, I'm 2 steps away from the ditch, but I don't seem to venture over there.
That's awesome. Yeah. Sweet. One last question. So the one last question is, what is the plan now? What are you looking forward to?
I want to do Christmas donations all year, pretty much. Well, I mean, I'm working here right now, and I'm hoping that it might lead into something more because I really love being here. I did live here for a little bit, moved out, but I still like to stay here. It's so important to me. It really makes my life run smoothly. And, being a geomatic engineer in oil and gas, I'm not working obviously there, but I certainly love nonprofit. I just don't want to leave it.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much, Colin. So I'll finish super quickly with this, that remember to try to capture these stories, because that is what this organization is all about. And whether we put them on the walls and put them out there or not, we still need to know these stories. And I encourage you in each of your departments to find these stories and remember why you're doing what you're doing. So God bless you all. Talk to you later.
Thanks, David. And we're looking for Crystal now to come up to talk about a Christmas staff engagement thing in Calgary. So, Crystal, are you sitting around there someplace? I saw her in the crowd, too, so I know she's there. There she is.
Yeah, so sorry. This is actually just a Calgary-specific announcement, but we're doing a few different initiatives to just get staff engaged in Christmas here. And one of those is 12 Days of Christmas. So you'll start seeing emails as of tomorrow, and it gives the opportunity for you to elect some of your fellow colleagues in a few fun categories. So you'll get more information tomorrow, but just keep your eye out for that.
Okay, and continuing with some Calgary announcements. The Calgary Huron Carol Tuesday next week is December 13th. It's at Knox United Church, and it's a fundraising concert for us with Tom Jackson and some special guests. Tickets are actually $45 plus fees and a bunch of other stuff. However, there's a $10 discount for employees and families, and the promotional code for that is staff. And we're looking for some volunteers. If you'd like to volunteer, contact Donna. And we'd also just love it if you were to purchase a ticket and go that evening. Random Acts of Kindness is next week in Calgary too. And for the month of December, we're encouraging staff to bless one another in creative ways. Each department will pick another department, let volunteer services know who you've picked, and do a random act of kindness in December for them. And at the end of the month, volunteer services will provide a score sheet for each department to rate the random acts of kindness they receive, and they will declare a winner. And the more creative the act of kindness, the better. And lastly, not lastly, number 5, coldest night of the year is February 25th. We're going to do a walk for that. If you would like to be part of a team, or even better, to start a team, we'd be grateful. It's a Team Alberta deal. So we're going to do it in Edmonton, Red Deer, and Calgary all on the same day. And for Calgary, please contact Brittany, Byron in Red Deer, and Sarah Knutson here in Edmonton. And we hope that it's a great fundraiser and just kind of a great event where we're all doing this together on February 25th. This week, Steve was going to talk about the Best Christian Workplace Survey that we just completed. However, he was unable to do that today now because he has a board meeting, so he's going to do it next week rather than this week, which means that you get me this week. Sorry for the downgrade, but it happens sometimes. So I want to talk about joy in the workplace today, and Isaiah 11 reads this. Like a branch that sprouts from a stump, someone from David's family will someday be king. The Spirit of the Lord will be on him to give him understanding, wisdom, and insight. He will be powerful, and he will know the honor of the Lord. His greatest joy will be to obey the Lord. This king won't judge by appearances or listen to rumors. The poor and the needy will be treated with fairness and with justice. Isaiah 11 happens to fall within the common lectionary reading for the last week. And it's a passage about Jesus and Jesus coming and prophetic about who Jesus was. But it also makes this connection that I don't think we often recognize that because of how understated it is. In verse 3, Isaiah states that there is joy in obeying God. And then in verse 4, he talks about the fact that the joy is found when we obey God in making sure that the poor and the needy will be treated with fairness and justice. Obedience is often associated with misery. There's not a lot of joy that I see in my daughter's face when I ask them to clean their room and they obediently do so. They tend to look very miserable at me when we make that command. Yet we serve in God's will and in God's way, and when we do this, God is saying that in obedience there is joy in doing that. It's an interesting thing is how obedience, when it is lived out in serving the poor, should come this great deal of joy within each of us. Put more succinctly, the mustard seed should be a joyous place to work if we're obeying God in being here, and then if we're living out his calling to serve the poor and the needy in a way that is fair and just. So, I had two terrible work environments in my career. To be honest with you, I probably had three, but the one that I had when I was 14 working at Little Caesars Pizza, I don't consider. If you don't have a terrible work experience at the age of 14, you haven't lived life. So, but when I hit my career, I had two. The one I want to tell you about today was a church that I worked at. And I was there for 6+ years. And the church had gone through an extremely difficult time. And there were 18 months there that were without a senior pastor. And during that time, there was lots of people that left, and the church was hurting, and the staff was hurting. And it was a larger staff for a church. It was about 25 people. And a new senior pastor arrived to a staff that was broken, and it was weary. And we were just very excited as a team to be led. And we were very excited for a new culture to take root. And so when the new leader arrived, there was this moment where we all kind of exhaled, and we anticipated that a whole bunch of good stuff would begin to happen. And yet, in the 2.5 years I worked under that senior pastor, I can tell you that it turned out to be one of the most oppressive work cultures that I have ever been in. There was a joylessness in that work environment that I have never experienced before, and I have not experienced since. I recall thinking, if I'm ever the senior pastor or the boss of any organization, I'm going to do the opposite of everything this guy's doing. And there's lots of stories to give you, but I'll just give you one. So we go on a 2-day retreat, and this is shortly after he arrived. So I'm thinking within the first 6 months. And the 2-day retreat's in Red Deer. The church was in the Edmonton area. And so we go to Red Deer, and we stay at the Capri Hotel in Red Deer for one night. And we have 2 days of meetings. And if you know me at all, I don't like a 2-hour meeting, so it's a 2-day meeting, but the meetings themselves are actually very good and very productive. And we came out of there feeling really good as a staff team. And it was just a great experience. That night, we were supposed to have our staff Christmas party. And the new guy was in charge of the staff Christmas party. And he decided that even though there was about 15 people that went to Red Deer for this team bonding thing and all these plans and all this exciting thing, he only invited 6 people to his staff Christmas party. So 9 people in the room weren't invited to the party. I happened to be one of the people that was invited to the party, Ended up not going because my daughter got the flu. But so that would have been on a Friday night. Monday morning, and I was the executive pastor, so technically on paper the number kind of 2 guy. I had staff come into my office who were heartbroken because they said, I thought I was part of the team, but I'm not. And I said, why do you feel that way? And they said, well, you were invited to something to celebrate who we were as a team, and I wasn't. And I said, you're right. You're right. We spend a lot of time at work, and I often ask the question, shouldn't it be fun? If it isn't going to be fun here, if there isn't going to be joy here, then I don't particularly want to be here. Now, what we do is hard, and I'm daily amazed at our frontline staff and their grace dealing with some of the messy stuff that they deal with. And when you sit in the office I sit in, you don't daily deal with that messy stuff, but they do. And it's incredibly hard, and it could weigh them down, but yet somehow they find joy. And somehow we need to find joy as a staff. In fact, if we are Christ-centered, which is our number one value, I would argue that we should pulsate with joy in the workplace, or we are failing to live out our number one value. We need to be a place that is joyful. So how does a work environment become joy-filled? What should we do? Mark Twain says, the 2 most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why. Purpose drives joy. And purpose drives joy more than anything else, in my opinion. And I've mentioned this to my Edmonton staff lots over the last little bit, so sorry for some of the repeated information here, but thanks for being here anyways. We were talking, and it was Paula Cornell, our programming manager, and I were talking about some things, and the whole man on the moon thing came up, and you've all heard the story, JFK put a man on the moon, blah, 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 blah. And Paula says to me, you said, you know the most interesting thing about that whole thing? And I said, no. And she said, when they said someone like went in and kind of did a study of why that culture works so well, and they went and they asked the custodian, what's your job? And the custodian replied, my job is to put a man on the moon. And I think sometimes we think that we have a bunch of different jobs in a large organization like ours. The reality is we all have the same job. And that's our purpose. And that job is within the ends of the organization of the Mustard Seed. It's within our mission statement. It's within our vision statement. And it can be succinctly said at this. Our job collectively and individually is to end homelessness and poverty. That's your job. And it doesn't matter to me if your job is in facility, if it's in property management, if it's in IT, if it's on the street level, if it's in housing, if it's in development, if it's as an administrative support staff, if it's in HR, if you're part of the executive team. You have one job here. And we all have that same job. And that is to end homelessness and poverty. And there is such incredible joy in doing that well and doing that together. And if you can't get out of bed in the morning, motivated to do the one job of ending poverty and ending homelessness, then please go work someplace else. Because there are a bunch of people in this world that absolutely would be thrilled to do your job because they so passionately believe in ending homelessness and poverty. My old church experience that I was talking about, the dude came with a binder that was about this thick, and he said, this is what we're going to be as a church. And he handed everybody their binder, and he flipped through the binder, and really what he was asking us to do was become exactly like another church that was about a 4-hour plane ride away from my city. And he said, and I said, so our purpose here, the thing you want me to get out of bed for, is to be exactly like somebody else. And he said, yes. And I said, I have no interest in doing that. And so I resigned. And later went and started my own church. But the problem was that there was nothing motivating about that. And I look at what I do now, and I look at what we get to do now, and I look at what Mark Twain said, and yeah, this is what I was born to do, to end poverty and homelessness. And there is great joy in understanding what it is that you do and understanding your purpose. The second thing that creates joy in the workplace is celebrating accomplishment. Find a reason and a way to party. Again, the bad environment we came up with a wonderful way to celebrate things. The problem was it was tied into conjunction with something else. So what we talked about and what my manager talked about was, let's have a Top Duck Award. And I said, well, that's a great idea. He said, so once a month we'll honor the person that's kind of the top duck, and we'll give them a little porcelain duck, and we'll make a big deal out of it. And I said, that's fantastic. And he said, but when you award the top duck, and remember, it was my job to implement this, he said, I also want you to give someone a lame duck. And I said, what's the lame duck? He said, well, the biggest screw up of the month. And he said, we'll make fun of it. We need to laugh at each other. It needs to be a good time. He said, but, sometimes you just got to kind of call people out. So nothing like instilling fear into the celebration, right? And so the first lame duck I gave to him. And I did it because I was like, I can't give this to anybody else. The second lame duck I gave to myself. And then what would happen is, before we would do this at every meeting, we only did it for a few months, I would actually go to a staff person I thought could take it and say, look, I'm going to do this. Are you all right with it? And they're like, yeah. And they said, I didn't think that was a big deal. I'm like, it's not a big deal, which is part of the reason why we're doing it to you. I said, you all right with that? They said, yeah. How do we celebrate our colleagues? How do we celebrate community participants and guests? How do we celebrate donors and volunteers? And how do we do it in ways that are meaningful to them so that they're significant to them, not just significant to us? My mother-in-law, and mother-in-law stories are always great, always gives gifts that she thinks you want, but never what you actually want. I have brought this up for a solid 22 years. I've been married 20, and so there was 2 years of dating there as well when they started giving me gifts. And I think I might have been engaged, or first year of marriage, and they asked me for my Christmas list, so I gave them the list, and they said to me, this is the same crap as last year. And I said, I know, because you didn't get it for me then. I'm hoping you'll get it for me now. And they laughed, and they still didn't buy anything off the list, because that's not what they like to do. They wanted to give me what they thought I wanted, not what I actually wanted. When we celebrate people, are we doing it in a way that's meaningful to them or meaningful to us? Yeah, that's enough. The third thing is, and it comes from Brene Brown. Brene Brown is a counselor and author and speaker, and she wrote a book called Daring Greatly and a bunch of other stuff. And so she's all over the place, and quite an interesting lady. And she said that if you want to have joy in your life, don't try to be happy, don't try to be joyful. You can't try that. Instead, the causation of joy in the workplace and in your life is actually gratitude. And so what she argued was that if you want to have joy, you actually have to cause it through gratitude. Gratitude and joy are not correlated. Gratitude is a cause, or is the causation of joy. Now, you can't just be grateful. You can't bumper stick gratitude into reality. So, just have an attitude of gratitude. That's junk. I was thinking of a different word than junk, but Faith Connect. And so, it doesn't work. Gratitude is actually gained only through practice and regularity. So instead of asking at work, what brings you joy in your work, ask the question, what are you grateful for? And don't just ask it once, ask it habitually, weekly, daily, every time you meet. What are you grateful for in your work? And be specific to your work. And it has to be done regularly. And I'll be honest with you, like a junior high dance, it's a little awkward at first. But eventually, with full participation, and once you commit, it changes your perspective, it changes your heart, and the result is actually joy in the workplace. Joy can be found in the workplace only if you practice gratitude in a regular, habitual way. The fourth thing is, for finding joy in the workplace, is make meetings productive. I don't know if you've ever done this before. Back at the church that I pastored, I had a drama guy on, he wasn't on staff, but he was kind of a key guy, a good friend of mine. His name is Harv. And so I said to Harv once, I said, I want you to preach the Sermon on the Mount. And he said, what do you mean? I said, literally, you're going to preach a sermon, you're going to dress up like Jesus, and you're going to preach Matthew 6, 7, and 8, like it was your sermon. And he said, I'm down with that except for the dress up as Jesus part. He said, that'll creep me out and everybody else. So I said, that's fine. So he got up there and he preached Sermon on the Mount. So I timed it and he timed it because we had to figure out how long this was, right? The Sermon on the Mount is 18 to 21 minutes. If you go long, it's 21. If you pause a lot, if you kind of blow through it quickly, it's 18. So Jesus said all of that in 18 to 21 minutes. I can recall long meetings on that other church staff. And I can recall meetings that literally were about nothing. We at times had the Seinfeld staff. And it was meetings about nothing. It was doing stuff for no other reason than just doing it. The cheesy analogy that I like to give is that meetings are not a road trip, but a destination. And if all of your meetings feel like a road trip, you're going to suck the joy right out of your team and out of your staff. But if your meetings are like a destination, you will find that joy actually increases in your staff. Meetings need to arrive at a place of understanding. It's not the length of the meeting that matters, although I prefer ones that are 45 minutes or less. But it is the fact that there is mutual understanding, there is action at the end, there is ownership over that action, and that there's accountability. And meetings like this are fun, they're fruitful, and they bring joy. Meetings that end with, why did we have that meeting? What was all that about? That feeling that your time has been wasted? Those will suck the joy right out of your environment. They will affect your culture in a negative way. Meetings don't need to be short, but they must feel productive. I had one of our newer staff around here said to me the other day, she came in and talked to me, and we talked, and I said, look, we're gonna have to talk about this again. And she said, we have a lot of meetings about meetings around here. And I said, yes, we do. And she said, why is that? And I said, well, because part of that is bringing collaboration, which in and of itself is production. If you're going to collaborate, then you have to have meetings about meetings. I said, but I understand they get a little annoying. And I said, but do you understand now why the purpose is? She said, yeah, I think I get that. And so as we talked about it more, it sort of made sense. But there was that feeling within her, and this was me setting it, that maybe we're just getting together for the sake of getting together. And that can't ever happen. I can't lead that way. And you can't lead your teams that way. To truly be the kind of mustard seed that God wants us to be, I think is to be a place of incredible joy. It's to know joy in what, not only what you do, but for whom we do it. It's, as the word of Isaiah says, it's this feeling that their greatest joy is obeying the Lord in bringing about justice and fairness to the poor, the needy, and the homeless. We need to be an organization that is absolutely filled with joy. That is what Christ-centeredness, I believe, looks like in the workplace. It's a place filled with holy joy. Last story, and then I'll wrap up. We had karaoke night down at the Mustard Seed Church about a month and a half ago, something like that. One of our community participants organized it. And so Yvonne asked me to go to karaoke night. So I went to the front part of karaoke night. And one of our community participants that's been around, I think longer than anyone, a lovely lady, started singing Girls Just Want to Have Fun, which is, by the way, the worst song written in the history of songs. And she's a lovely lady who doesn't sing well, and she was dressed very loudly, and she was singing equally loudly. And then she had 3 backup singers, and they were wearing ballet tutus with funny hats and also bright shirts. And so I'm listening to a song that me and Jesus both loathe, and I'm watching this go on, and then the 3 ladies in the tutus form a line, and so they're like, conga line, and they're conging around the thing, and it's like controlled chaos at this moment. And the street level staff I was standing beside turned to me and said, "I love my job," with the biggest smile on her face. And the reason why she said that is because in that room there was such joy. There was such joy. Henry Nouwen, as he often does, says it best. Joy does not simply happen to us. We have to choose joy and keep choosing it every day. Keep choosing it every day at the Mustard Seed. Let's pray. Father in heaven, thank you that we get to do this, and thank you that we get to serve people who are in desperate need of help, and that you have called us into this. And at times that can feel heavy, it can feel weighty, and that can make us feel weary. And the only counter thing to that is joy. And so we pray that the joy that can and should and often comes from you would transform all of us to a place that the Mustard Seed is known as a place of incredible joy amongst the people we serve and amongst us as a staff. And may joy be something that we don't just talk about. May joy become something that we as One Seed are known for. And I ask this in your name. Amen. Thanks, everyone. Keep being awesome.
Yeah, please don't have a recording again.